Okay, so now we're all set. So welcome to Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to be talking about strengths and weaknesses. And you notice that what I did was I enabled the chat so that what we can do is we can share information about ourselves. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about who we are, what we do. We've got a fair number of people here today. If you'd like to, you can do a 30-second, truly 30-second commercial, who you are and what you want to do. Very quick, but I really want you to put additional information into the chat the same way that Al did. Make sure you include your LinkedIn URL. In your 30-second commercial, I really want you to talk about very specifically what you do, where you want to work, in other words, your location, and what job title you are looking for. Just so that we get a chance to get to know you just a little bit. Okay. If this group gets much larger, we're not going to be able to do that on screen. All right. So who's going to start? Al, since I've been picking on you. Okay. Do you mind if I pick on you again?
Oh, pleasure. Hi, everyone. My name is Al Nunez. I live in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I'm a higher education professional, basically a matchmaker, building teams to either recruit students, to help students while they're in school, or to bring back alumni to colleges and universities. So I'm looking for a position as director of admissions or working in alumni relations at a college or university in the Phoenix area or online, hybrid or remote. So happy to connect with all of you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
I'll go next. Frank Pettis from the OC, the OG from the OC. I had learning departments. I am looking for a head of learning in the Orange County area and or any remote. Last role was as a VP of Instructional Technology for KnowBe4, a cybersecurity awareness training company. Over 20 years in the IT education field. Looking for my next gig in that type of a field.
Very good. Thank you. Next. Cyrus, are you unmuted for a reason?
No. Can you hear me, Linda?
We can.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got disconnected with my desk laptop, so I decided to connect with you with my iPhone.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Would
so
you like
I have to introduce myself?
30 seconds.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Cyrus Davijani. I'm an IT technical support professional focusing on network operating system database administration. And looking for a job opportunity where I live, Orange County, California.
Good, thank you. Next.
Linda, I'll go next. Good morning. My name is Louisa Dixon. I am based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I do recognize some of you from other groups, so but happy to connect if we aren't already. I am a medical device executive with 20 plus years in project and program management. I'm looking for an executive level role, VP or up, in project program management. Medical device, as I said, is my wheelhouse. It could be either based in the Bay Area and be hybrid or remote, but it's difficult to relocate in this day and age. So. But thank you very much for the opportunity to join this group.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Next. Go ahead, Bunny.
Here we go. Hi, everyone. I am, my real name is Frances. I go by Bunny. So I am Bunny Ray, and I have over 25 years of experience with a combination of project program management and learning and development. My passion lies within the learning realm and onboarding realm, but I'm definitely open to program management and looking for my next opportunity. I'm in the greater Philadelphia area. And thanks for the invitation to connect here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Go.
Thank you.
My name is Chelsea, and I'm located in the Chicago suburbs. And I have worked in both the mental health field and the education setting, and I'm looking to transition those skill sets to the wedding industry. So, working at a venue, and I'm open to positions in Chicago and also possibly in the Tennessee area. Thanks for having us today.
Absolutely. Next.
Hi, my name is Deetra Davis. I am in a suburb of Chicago. I am in the publishing field, been in the publishing field for about 20 years, and I'm looking to stay in the publishing field and just kind of looking for my forever job at this point. Thank you.
Hi, I'll go. My name's Tracy Moses, and I am in the beautiful Hermosa Beach, Southern California area. We have a nice, beautiful sunny day out here. I am in marketing in CPG, med device or foundations. And I am seeking a VP, CMO, or SVP type role. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you.
I'll go. My name is Cheryl Sequoia. I'm in Lansing, Michigan, and I am an HR professional looking for organizational development, change management, and would like to be remote or somewhere in the Michigan area, unless the relocation package is fabulous. I know, Tracy, I don't think I'm going to California, but hey. So again, thank you for having me on this call. Thank you for holding this call, and I'll hand it off. Thank you.
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Taldalori from Rutherford, New Jersey. I'm seeking a position as a director or VP of digital engineering for web and mobile platforms. I have extensive experience in the retail industry, but I'm open to other industries like digital, travel, or media. And I'll share my LinkedIn with everyone if they want to connect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I can go next.
Thanks, Esther.
Hey, everybody. My name is Esther, and I'm based in New Jersey. I'm a procurement sourcing professional, also sometimes known as contracts management or vendor management professional. I've been working both in the IT space and the non-IT space and in this arena for 18 years. And I am looking for a remote role only because I'm looking to move. And I am flexible in that I am looking for both contract and full-time work. Thanks. And it's good to be here with you today.
Good morning, everyone. I am Bo Smith, and I'm happy to be here with all of you and see some good friends that I've made over the years. I am discerning my next chapter. My background has been in newspaper, advertising, sales, and management, and also in the sales training field, where I've grown to be even more professional in sales. I'm looking for a position that helps people. That's more important to me, number one, than money. So I'm not going to take just any kind of sales position. I'm located in Chicago's western suburbs. So I'm looking for something that could be in sales or marketing. It could be development for a nonprofit or as an ambassador for a nonprofit. It could be part-time or full-time. And I take pride in being a pretty good connector. Would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And I'll make an announcement for Linda at some point. Unfortunately, it's just for the Chicago area, but at any rate, try and help you all somehow. Bo Smith, thank you.
Go ahead, Bo, and say it now.
So there is a job fair today in Chicago's western suburbs that's being put on by WorkNet Batavia and IDES. And so for anybody in Chicago's western suburbs today from 1 to 4 p.m. at Mooseheart, which is just off Route 31 in between Batavia and North Aurora, should be a job fair worth checking out. Those of us who've been in job search before know that job fairs are not the ideal, but they are part of the quiver of what we do. So again, job fair in Mooseheart, Illinois today from 1 to 4 p.m.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can go next.
Thank you.
Good morning, afternoon. My name is Mark Arbus. I am currently located in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I'd be interested in a job either remote or in the Chicago area. I'm a practicing attorney. Most of my experience is in real estate, leasing, and retail. However, as part of my journey to find things that I'd really like to do as well, if anyone has any ideas how I would get into baseline entry-level teaching, because one of my other goals and dreams would be to teach either at a junior college level or somewhere I don't have a teaching degree, but I have a lot of knowledge. So if anyone has any ideas on that to do part-time, I could couple that with a full-time attorney job, and that would be on the road to my dream. So nice meeting everybody.
Wonderful. So I'm going to break in just for a minute, and I will do this. You'll notice that I don't always stick to script. So for those of you who are interested in doing something like an adjunct teaching role, working at a college or a university or a community college, you do not need to have a teaching degree in order to do that. You need to normally have, am I right, Al? Okay. You need normally an advanced degree in your area of expertise, although in some fields, even that advanced degree isn't necessary. Look at all of the community colleges and see what's out there. I think it's a great way of not only giving you a little bit of part-time income, seeing whether or not that's a career you might be interested in, but it's also a way of expanding your skills and your network. Okay. So I highly recommend double checking all of the local colleges and universities, and especially community colleges near you for some of those opportunities. They're always hiring, and the next semester will probably start in January. So it's a good thing to take a look at. Now, fair warning, you will probably not make a ton of money, but there's a huge amount of satisfaction and growth opportunities there. So, okay, thanks. Sorry for the interruption. Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to say, because Bo was so open, I just realized, I think Michelle, I think you live near me. Who said they lived in Rutherford, New Jersey?
That was Michelle.
So I wanted to let you know that there is an event going on tonight in Hillsdale. It's a networking event. If you're not aware of it, I'm about to post my LinkedIn details and such. You can just,
I'll reach out to you.
Okay, super.
Great. Thanks, Esther.
That's what this is all about. It's not just getting information. We're all in job search together. So it's helping each other and providing those resources and support, networking in any way that we can. So thank you all for sharing that. Okay, now Laura.
I'm project manager. I've worked in the education publishing area for over 20 years. I'm looking for a job in the publishing industry, but I am open to other industries, and I'm in the New York metro area. That's me.
Okay. By the way, Frank, that's a great suggestion. If we have some of those individual, okay, hey, I've got an idea. If you're in the area, let me put it in the chat. It's easier to connect that way than to share it necessarily with the whole group. It's easier to refer back to. Okay, next. I'm looking at my Brady Bunch screen as I age myself. Joey, are you?
Hi, my name is Joey. From Washington State, the greater Seattle area by Renton. I've been unemployed now for a little while, so I'm a little rusty on my skills in a sense. I used to be in the project management field, and so I'd like to get back into that. The thing I've been doing on my time off is I've been kind of exploring product management as something new and different. So I've been kind of playing around with that idea a little bit, been talking to a few different people and taking some courses on LinkedIn Learning and such. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm interested in it, so we'll see. So
excellent.
Thank you.
Everybody has transferable skills. Is there somebody else who has not yet introduced themselves who would like to? You can raise your digital hand and I can find you, or just unmute. Okay, I put my contact information in the chat as well. One of the reasons that we put our LinkedIn URLs there is because connecting with each other does two things. Not only does it enhance and broaden your network, you never know who's connected to whom, but it also gives us the ability to do that direct chat with one another. So Esther and Michelle, if they're connected, they can chat with one another. You can also chat with people directly in the LinkedIn group. The other thing that you can do with having that direct connection is that we all know, or at least I hope you know, that endorsements are an important part of the LinkedIn algorithm. You can only endorse someone who is a first level connection. So that's another reason to get those connections made. And then the third reason is that not only does being connected increase your network, if you then comment or make likes, connections, whatever, continue to comment on the posts of other people that you are connected with, it not only raises their visibility, it raises yours. And you are more likely to see the post from someone you are connected to, or at least someone that you're following. So that's the other reason to do it. It's another way of helping to tailor what you see on LinkedIn and who sees you. So all of those things are really important. Okay, excellent. All right, Eric, you may want to put your LinkedIn URL there. I don't see it in the chat. It's an important thing to do. Maureen, you ready?
Yes. Putting my LinkedIn in?
Putting your LinkedIn in and telling us a little bit. 30 seconds.
Certainly. Apologies for being late. My name is Maureen Downey, and I've been a financial services professional for my career, most recently in the last 15 years on the buy side. So I basically manage and build teams of alternative asset professionals, and I allocate capital to fund managers, but I also do direct transactions across the alternative asset space. That means private equity, growth equity, venture capital, as well as real assets, which means infrastructure and real estate. And I am looking for a position where I can help build and manage a team of alternative asset professionals and hopefully build partnerships as well as products. And I am looking not just in California, but across the United States.
Wonderful, thank you. Last call, if you want to introduce yourself, now's your time. Otherwise, we're getting on to topic. Okay. What I'm going to do, by the way, is I'm putting in the chat the link to request admission to that private lunch and learn group. I will try, and if we are already connected, I will try and send you an invitation. But just in case I forget, or you want to do it before I do, go ahead and request it. All you have to do is say, lunch and learn, or if it gives you that option. If not, the only way that you get the link is if I give it to you. You are welcome to share the link to register for these lunch and learn sessions, but please do not share the link for that private group. We really, truly want to make that a space where we can be very comfortable sharing information with each other. Okay. Wonderful. Yes, Cheryl.
If we signed up for this lunch and learn, did it sign us up for the whole series, or do we need to, great.
It signs you up for the whole series through the end of December.
Thank you.
We will probably do a new link for January, but this will work through the end of December. The same Zoom link and the same registration. Great question. Okay. All righty then. Then if anybody else wants to introduce themselves, they can at a later date, but let's keep talking now. So I want to talk a little bit about strengths and weaknesses. We all know that that's one of the areas that gets talked about a lot in interviews. Have any of you gotten that kind of a question? Yep. How comfortable are you with your answers? So if I were to say, yeah,
No, I'll just tell you, Linda is great at this because she absolutely helped me with this exact question.
thank you. Good to know. Okay. So one of the things that I do is these sessions are my way of giving back, of sharing that information. But if you ever want one-on-one kind of practice, let me know. That's something that I do as well. Okay. Now, talking about that strengths and weaknesses question. It's a tough one because it's hard for us sometimes to evaluate ourselves. You never know what it is you want to say or why, or more importantly, what the person on the other end of that question is really looking for. So let me share a couple of tricks. When we're talking about strengths, what we're really looking for are examples of not only what you've done, okay, but why you've done it, how it works with someone else in terms of why am I asking that question? I want to see your ability to be self-reflective without bragging. I want to see how you apply that strength in a work situation, and more importantly, how you can apply it for me. I want to see how you talk about yourself, highlighting how you think you fit for this job by what you pick as your strength. So if what you're hearing is that needs to be changed, or you have to have several different answers in the can, the answer is absolutely right. Just like tailoring your resume, your interview responses should be tailored to the job. This is one where you get an opportunity to help direct the conversation and resell yourself. Because too many people answer this strength and weakness question in a very generic way. If you pick one of the hot buttons for the job and talk about how that's your strength, you automatically make yourself stand out. And that's a good thing. Not only are you answering it differently than everybody else does, but you're telling me how you fit into my organization and that you understand what a strength might be for me, not just for you. So if we were to go around the room and ask you what your strength was, okay, want you just very quickly, all I want you to do, I'm going to just go around the room very fast, and I want you in 1 or 2 words, what's your strength? And let's see whether we can hear any kinds of commonalities. And I'm just going to do it on the basis of who's on my Brady Bunch screen right now, if you're willing to share. Okay, just to do it that way. So Al, Michelle, please remember, Bunny, Frank, and then Mark.
Relationship builder leading to enrollment goals.
Michelle.
My turn. If I find the mute button, I'm sorry. Influence in driving people, first culture. You said 1 or 2 words, right?
Exactly it. We'll talk about how to incorporate that. Yes. Funny.
I think I'm next. Relationship building and collaboration within various teams.
Frank.
Perseverance.
Oh, I like that. Mark. Maybe not. Cheryl.
Communication and delivering meaningful information to people at all levels of the organization.
Excellent. Cyrus.
I think I was on mute, sorry.
You were.
Yeah, so understanding, not only representing the client, but also understanding what their goals are and trying to align my goals with theirs if possible.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Connection, communication, and collaboration, Linda.
Excellent. Okay. I'm just trying to go through my screen and I apologize. Because there's so many people, there are more people here now. I'm not seeing all the names. I apologize. Somebody whose last name is Miller. I'm just going through my, Esther will get to you, I promise.
Someone by the last name of Miller, must be Joey Miller, I guess.
Thank you. As I said, my screen isn't showing your name. I apologize.
Sure. Being well organized and detail oriented.
Perfect. Thank you. There we go. Eric.
Client empathy.
Ooh, nice. Laura.
Cross-functional collaboration and processing improvement.
Bo.
Networking and relationship building.
Esther.
Relationship management and due diligence.
Very nice. Louise. I'm sorry, Louisa.
Inspirational leadership and achieving goals through emotional intelligence.
Lindsay.
Willingness to learn.
Great one. Laura.
I already went.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I already went.
Oh, I apologize.
That's
You
okay.
On my screen.
There might be another Laura, I'm not sure.
And on my screen, you just moved boxes. Sorry about that. Carl.
He's saying that he doesn't have audio today.
Oh, that's fine. You can throw it in the chat if you want to. And thanks for monitoring that for me. If I'm looking at the screen, I don't always see the chat. Jill.
Thoroughness and empathy.
Wonderful. Tara. Can you unmute Tara? While you're playing with that, Chelsea.
I put mine in the chat. Effective interpersonal communication through a trauma-aware lens.
Perfect. John. Tracy.
Mentoring teams to successful results through a customer focused lens.
Jennifer Tamburino.
My strength would be creatively making connections.
Deetra.
I'm deadline driven.
Great. Karen.
I really focus on being a great storyteller, and that really comes from a place of empathy as well as I'm really understanding how that translates into product, combining product and customer stories.
Now I apologize. My screen, you've all moved around again. So if I've missed you, one of the problems of trying to do it this way, if I've missed you and you've got a strength that you want to talk about just very quickly. Okay. And Carl, you're right. The reason that I did this was because these are very generic. And I wanted to do that because that's our normal standard response. And as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, that's what I'm used to hearing. So if you just say that and say, this is my strength, I'm going to go, okay. So when you're answering the strengths question, you need to tie it to the job. So if your strength is being that connector, what does that do for you on the job, on my job? How have you used it in past jobs to accomplish something? It's not enough just to say, here's what my strength is. If you do that, you sound like everybody else. And you're missing the opportunity to really sell yourself in for the job. So if one of you is willing, okay, to try it again based on a hypothetical or a real job, let's talk about how that might fit and how you can improve it. The idea is, I've looked at the job, you're not saying that, but you need to be able to analyze the job, see what they're really looking for, and then pick a strength that you can talk about that says you not only know what they want, but here's how you've identified it in you and how you've been able to use it and make it work for another company. Inference being, hey, new company, here's how I can do it for you. So the generic, I'm a great communicator, doesn't do me any good. How do you apply that? I'm a great networker. I'm a connector. What does that mean? Anyone want to give it a try?
I can give an example, Linda, because I had that experience in my previous job. As you know, in IT, when people need something, it's especially for developing an app or a project, that program that they need automatically what they are doing in their job, they speak with you what they need, but my job was in kind of between them and the coder, the programmer, translate what they need to the programmer. And what was happened before I talked to them, believe or not, more than maybe 50 or kind of 70%, I hear that the previous coder, they have done wrong in their project because they just went to use the document, and the document haven't been updated. So they didn't talk to the employee that they currently work, what they do. So that is something horrible happened. And after that, the project was done, and they see a lot of discrepancies between what they do and the project. So that was I and one or two of my colleagues, we decided to go and talk to the employee and see what exactly they do, and again, get those information and give to the programmer or coder, and to verify those the discrepancies that they need for the project.
Okay, so that's actually a very good strength, that idea of being that communicator, the good listening skills, the asking the great questions, but that was a roundabout answer. You need to be more succinct in your answer and be able to tie it in. This is not a question of I need all that backstory, okay? If you're talking about your strength, anytime you're answering a question, when you give the example, it makes your answer stronger. But more importantly, I'm listening not just to what you're saying, I'm listening to how you say it. So it's that get to the point, do it with energy and enthusiasm, but demonstrate that you're answering my question and showing me how you fit. So the idea of my strength, in that case, Cyrus, might be something like, my strength is that I know how to speak both tech and English. So what I do is that I ask great questions. I want to make sure that the products, the software, whatever it is that I'm developing, meets the customers, the consumer's needs, whether it's internal or external. And in order to do that, it's not just reading a document. I know that I have to have those conversations, and those conversations on an ongoing basis. And that's my strength, to be able to make sure that I ask the questions to know what they really need, and then to develop the product that they will use, and to do it in a way that works for them instead of just for the programmers. That's what my strength is. And in this situation, I was able to do that. It becomes a much stronger answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it should be based on what the job is looking for.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Would anyone else like to try one?
I would like to try one, and mine would be for deadline driven. I am in publishing, so I would say something like, I'm deadline driven. I monitor and manage due dates. I look at the production schedule, make sure that the journal publishes on time, and I stay on top of my due dates. I don't know.
Okay, so that's important, and that's part of the job description, I'm sure. But if we were to turn that into a strength answer, Deidre, okay, one of my strengths is that I never let a deadline pass without notice. And I do that by making sure that not only does everything stay on time, I know I have my project plan. My strength is keeping track of everything, keeping all those balls in the air, making sure nothing gets dropped by doing X, Y, and Z. So turn it into not just a repeat of what the job is looking for, but add something extra of value that shows you not only understand it, but that you have plans in place to make things work. Okay. Anyone else want to try one?
Linda, I can try one.
Thanks. Go ahead, Michelle.
So if you recall, I had highlighted, a people first culture. So as I lead teams, technical teams, I foster a culture that values people and promotes collaboration and innovation. For example, I do that by allowing the team the room to, voice their opinions, their concerns, understanding their needs, and acknowledging their efforts. I'd like to also say that I, acknowledge them and reward them when things are going well.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Thank you. So one of the things that I noticed there is that she not only talked about a strength, but she tied it into how she works within a company, within the organization. So she brought in not just that people skill, she brought in teamwork, she brought in management style, she brought in brainstorming, she brought in the collaboration, all of those various aspects without even having to talk about it. And she can still bring that answer. It's a much broader answer. And if you can tie it specifically to, okay, here's how it worked, that's even better. It makes it even stronger. But as you gave it, that was a pretty good answer. Y'all getting the idea of what we're trying to do? It's not just a simple statement. The more closely you tie it to something you've actually done, the more closely you can make it an example, and you can tie it to the specific job and what they're looking for, the stronger that becomes. I'm looking for your self-evaluation, but more importantly, I'm looking to see how you fit me and whether or not what you think you're really good at works for me and that you know how to apply it. The strengths question really gives you an opportunity, without them recognizing it, to highlight one of your skills, to highlight one of your accomplishments, and to help show how you fit better than everybody else. Because you've already been there, done that. And you're ready to move forward. Now that strength question can be asked in lots of different ways, and you can use your answer in lots of different ways. if you haven't listed that strength that you're talking about as one of the skills in your LinkedIn profile, you're missing a beat. Make sure it's there, and make sure that you have at least one endorsement for that skill. Because that's the only way LinkedIn recognizes it, is if there is at least one endorsement. The other thing that you can do is in your About section, right? You can say, here's my journey. Here's one of the things that throughout my career, I've been able to do. This is the strengths that I bring to every job. Here's my superpower. It's another way of you highlighting how you're different than everyone else. Now, LinkedIn is obviously generic, but it gives people an opportunity to start thinking about you rather than just the experience. And that's really important. So if we're to flip that on its head and talk about weaknesses, weaknesses actually become a little harder for many of us to talk about, right? It's one of the reasons that we ask the question. Too many times, especially for this question, we're going to get the generic. And many of them are the humble brag, right? I'm a workaholic. I'm a perfectionist. I don't want to hear that. And so you're finding some companies are asking the question a little differently. Many of them are still asking the standard, what's your greatest weakness? But you may also have them reverse it a little bit and say, in your last performance review, what did your boss say was something you needed to work on? Or if I were to ask people you've worked with, what would they say would be your greatest weakness? Or your opportunity for growth? I'm not looking on my side of the desk, the screen, the question. I'm not looking for that humble brag. What I'm looking for, again, is something that is job related, but not a fatal flaw. And I'm looking for something that you can be actually working on. So if you say, I work too many hours, well, so what? You work until the job gets done, right? That's not a bad thing. If you say, I'm that perfectionist who keeps going, well, okay, but what does that do in terms of deadlines? And when do you say enough is enough? So think about that weakness as opportunities for growth for you. And you can even answer that question by turning that into an opportunity. I ask it because I want to make sure that you have some self-awareness. We all have a weakness. Okay. I mentioned one of mine at the beginning of this call is that I'm not as technologically savvy in some of these things as I'd like to be, and I'm still learning. And some of it's trial and error, and I'm okay with that. I hope you guys are too. But it's the idea that you've discovered something that you can use. So let's say, for example, that it was a piece of software that the job requires. You know how to use it, but it is not one that you've used recently. A lot of jobs are going to ask for Excel. Now, unless the job is using Excel 6 hours of the day, every day, okay, knowledge of Excel isn't necessarily a fatal flaw. But it could be, you know, I'm an Excel user. I use Excel in a variety of different ways, but I know my Excel use can be stronger. And so I have registered and started taking a class in Excel for this. And I'm excited now to be able to use it here, to broaden how I use it. That becomes not just a weakness. My Excel skills aren't as strong as they should be. I've recognized that. But I've also taken active steps to turn that around. What I'm looking for in a weakness is a recognition and a plan. So if I were to ask some of you what your weaknesses would be, and remember, it needs to be related to the job. Now, another difference between strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes we have a tendency to think of weakness as personality. Hard to correct a personality issue. Personalities come into play more in terms of strength. My ability to read people. That's personality. And it translates into task and accomplishment. In terms of a weakness, if we're talking about it, it's harder for that to be personality and then to put something in place to change it. Okay. I'm an introvert. I am. Okay. In my private life, I am an introvert. So if you wanted to talk about that, especially in an organization where teamwork is important, or where you have to go out and do things, be careful. So if you'd use that personality trait of introversion, so one of the things that I do is deliberately go out and make myself involve people in small ways. I've discovered that I am less of an introvert and less uncomfortable about making my feelings known when I start meeting people one-on-one, whether it's in Zoom, on the phone, or whatever. Once I know that person a little bit, it's easier for me to personality issues are more difficult in terms of the weakness, but they can be dealt with. Yes, Frank.
I think you're saying that we should concentrate our weaknesses on hard skills that are recoverable. Is that my understanding?
That's often the way that works because you can turn that into an action plan. Okay, but even if you're talking about, so what would you normally talk about as your weakness, Frank?
I have two go-tos. One is early in my career, right? And then the second one would be something along the lines of I have to remember that people that work with me are not necessarily motivated by the same things I am. And so identifying those motivations has become important to me as I have grown in my career, something along that line.
Okay, so how would you do that?
I would have conversations with them and just find out about them as a person. I basically have an interview with them. Tell me about how you got here. Where did you start? What were you doing? Why this job? Why are you doing what you're doing? That sort of thing.
Okay, so what do you all think about that as a weakness? And that kind of a response.
Well, I think that was fantastic. I saw that as more of a strength, but it could be a weakness if Frank wasn't picking up on if somebody felt uncomfortable sharing personal stuff about themselves. So you kind of have to gauge each person. So,
or if he leads people, it is a strong characteristic of a leader to be able to motivate teams.
Absolutely. So it's one of those questions, though, Frank, where you have to be careful so that it doesn't become that humble brag. But it's also, what are you doing? By doing that, by making those conversations, by talking with people to find out specifically what motivates them, how have you been able to implement that? Okay. What plans do you have in place to make it work, and so that you don't fall back on old habits? We all fall back on them, by the way. Don't worry about that. It happens to the best of us. But yes, that's that fine line between strength and weakness. Okay. His strength is being able to find out what motivates individual people and then develop ways of communicating with them so that it works for them. The weakness is falling back on old ways of doing things and not worrying about it. So it's that fine line always when you're answering these questions between strength and weakness. Yes, Louisa.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around why it would be better to use a technical lack of skill, something technical as your weakness, rather than something that is a little bit more introspective, because we're trying to demonstrate that we are able to self-reflect. And I think picking on something, we all have something, right? I would totally want to, make sure that it targets something in the job description too, and speak to how I've been working on it. But it seems a little bit of if as a hiring manager myself, if somebody came back with, well, I'm not so good at Excel, I know they can learn it. I'm more interested in a response that's more self-reflective and more internal. What are your thoughts on that, Linda?
So can you give me an example of what you might use?
Yeah, I have a couple to draw on as well. But the good example for this discussion would be is that I hate asking for help. It makes me feel like, hey, I'm not good enough. It's generational, I think. And it's something that I need to work on lifelong. It's not something I'm ever going to like solve from one day to the next. But it's true. I am reluctant to ask for help, and I have to make myself ask for help. So that's the one I use.
So how do you do that?
How do I do what?
So you say you have to make yourself ask for help. Why would you do that, and how would you do that? How does that translate into growth for you and growth for the company?
Well, yeah, I admit I have not thought about it quite in that way. But I intellectually, I know that I have to ask for help when I need it, no matter how high an organization I am. And I do. It's not that I don't, but it's more that with that weakness, I'm admitting that it is a constant dialogue with myself. But I'm certainly at this age and with this experience that I have under my belt, I do ask for help. I'm just acknowledging that it's difficult for me to do that. Because it's important that you're able to do that. I mean, you could certainly damage company goals by not asking for help. So yeah, I have to give that some thought, Linda, but I may need to do a better job in tying it to the job that I'm interviewing for.
And so that's one of the things, is that's a great self-reflection. So it's a really good answer, but it doesn't go quite far enough. Every time you come up with some of those, here's my opportunity in your head, right? Here's what I'm doing to work around it. It's not just giving myself permission. And giving yourself permission is a good thing. But having routine conversations, perhaps with other people, reaching out for the feedback, actively soliciting, putting together every time I run into one of those problems where I know it's not there, writing it down, and then making a plan to go ask somebody. There's an IT related term called failing faster, right? I don't know what the technical term is, Frank, so you can help me. But it's part of that whole idea of giving yourself the permission to say, if it isn't working, try something new. And basically what you're saying, Laura, is the idea of not only asking for feedback and support, but recognizing that you don't have all the answers. Or Louise, I'm sorry. And that it's okay. And giving yourself the permission to go out and check, but to then find who your resources would be, who can provide you that kind of support. And if you wanted to then turn it around a little further, is one of the things that I've learned by recognizing this in myself is to start recognizing it and acknowledging it in other people too, that they may have the same issue. And making sure that I let them know that it's really okay to ask questions along the way and to ask for support and advice. Okay. So are we turning it around a little bit? Yes, but always look at it as that self-reflection piece. And that was wonderful, Louisa. But it's also the opportunity. How do I then apply it? What do I do next? So from the hiring manager standpoint, does that extra piece make sense, Louisa? Okay. So no matter what we're looking at in terms of a strength or a weakness, it has to be tied to the job. But I want more than just a statement. I want to know that you really have thought about it a little bit and that you're bringing it, you have a plan. If it's a strength, you're showing me how it's worked and why it's important to me. And if it's a weakness, it's that self-reflection, that plan that you've put into place to help you grow. We're never going to be able to solve everything, and that's okay. But recognition is the first step. Self-awareness is part of that recognition. And then that opportunity, how do you deal with that opportunity? Is the next piece. Anyone else want to try one?
Oh,
Laura,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. One quick question, just is there any time when people are asked for more than one weakness, or usually you really kind of just need to have one in your
I would be careful about doing too many, but both for strengths and weaknesses, you can mention two as part of the same answer.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that my weakness is giving people the benefit of the doubt. I think especially when I worked remote, it was difficult it wasn't like working in the office with people where you can see if they're working hard, they're frustrated, whatever's going on. So you assume what's going on in their world. So what I've done is done more informational meetings with people, checking on them. If a vendor continues to have a problem, really follow up, maybe follow up multiple times a week. Maybe meetings will be necessary, and just keeping on top of that. I like giving people the benefit of the doubt, but I realize that in a business situation, I have to be on top of what's going on and not assume what their situation is.
Okay, great. So feedback on that response.
I thought you did a good job.
Mm-hmm. Esther, you're talking, but you're muted.
I would say just go in and be a little more specific and give a more specific advance, for example, instead of just saying situation. And yeah, okay.
Yep, I agree. And I'd be careful if you're talking about learning from the remote. If you're going into another remote situation, I would not use that phrasing.
Yeah, we definitely, if it's hybrid or in person or remote, definitely gauge it according to that.
Okay. And it could simply be that they're not in the same location you are. You don't need to even use the word hybrid or remote. The assumption is that if they are not in the same location, it could be all the time, it could be never. Right? Could be your employee or somebody else's. But the opportunity, the thought process, the practice, and the steps still remain the same.
Linda, is it okay to use an example where it was a challenge for me, but is no longer? That's what I usually do.
So you're talking about a weakness that you've overcome?
Yeah.
Maybe. So
Is
can you
what
give
I
me
usually
an
say.
example?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. You know, there was a time where I would take things, I would take things personally that the vendor would do. And I realized that this wasn't the best way to go. And now I just simply negotiate. I don't take it personally, and the negotiations go so much better. I say something along those lines, but without getting lost, the kind of thing.
Well, yes, you can talk about that as a past weakness, and I understand that. You might be able to use that, but I'd like to hear a little more in depth about how that might work and maybe an example. But in that case, I would probably use 2 as part of your answer.
Right. So in the context of what I do, it makes sense because I deal with vendors all the time. So they would pretty much know. But it's kind of like you're answering the question, but you're not saying a weakness that you currently have. And I don't get to answer that question a lot, but when I do that, they usually accept that answer. They don't say, well, what about what you're having now? They usually
Most
say,
people won't.
So,
and that's part of the problem is that we don't know what they're thinking, Esther. And I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, no. Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
because we all need to learn.
They don't always come back to you and say, this is what I'm thinking. Why aren't you doing this? But as a hiring manager, okay, if you were to get that past kind of thing, and it's okay to have something in the past, but if it was strictly the past, something that, if you're saying you have to continually work on it, okay, and you have to keep remembering that. Okay.
Doesn't that work against you? I mean, you know.
Well, we all know that every once in a while a person's going to get to us.
Okay.
And for the most part, I've been very good at it, but every once in a while there is that one person. So I take a 10-minute or a 10-second break, reevaluate, and go back to, okay, here's what the issue is. Here's what we're talking about. It's not about me. This person is trying to do the best for their company the same way that I am.
Right.
And so I depersonalize it. The self-reflection is tough. The trying to put something in place is important. There is a fine line between saying, yeah, I've already mastered this, in which case, why are you talking about it? Okay. As opposed to, here's what I'm really doing and here's how I'm continuing to work. We all have things we need to work on. So if you were to do that, the idea is, every once in a while it rears its ugly head again. So I take a pause, take a breath, remember that I need to go back to, here's what the pricing is. This is about the saving the company money, or in their case, making the company money. It is not personal, it is business. It's that continual self-reflection that could be important. Any of you have been on the hiring end of the table that wants to comment on that as well?
Linda, it's not, I wanted to comment on it a little bit differently, more from a performance management. So what I used to do with my teams when it came time to do performance management, and I've had many different iterations of how we did performance management. Sometimes it was once a year, sometimes it was once a quarter, but as of late in my last role, we did it once a quarter. But what I emphasized is that each team member needed to come up with one weakness that they needed to work on and report on it once a quarter. So where are you in addressing it? if you think you've addressed it, then okay, is there something else that you would like to work on? So I always encouraged it so that it wasn't so difficult for them to do this exercise. I did also find that making it specific, because if you tie it back to SMART goals, it had to be specific, was very challenging for someone to do.
And that's exactly right. And so that's one of the things about this too, is that whole idea of being specific. So I love that concept, Michelle, of thinking about it in performance review terms or performance conversation terms. Think about it as, what are you working on next? Okay. Look at it as learning opportunity. We all have opportunities to learn, but you can't learn unless you know what it is you need to do. And by the way, somebody's always going to be there to help and support. And in this case, that's me. Okay. So those are the kinds of things that we talk about. And if you'd like to, what we can do is we can do separate sessions just on strengths versus weaknesses as well. Because the weakness question especially, the strength one is fairly standard. It can be, tell me about a strength. It could also be, tell me about a success. And I'm actually starting to hear successes more frequently than strengths. So you need to be able to come up with it's a related question, related answer, but think about a success. Here's a chance to talk about an accomplishment. And what did you do to make it successful? From the weakness standpoint, what I'm hearing a lot, and what I'm hoping people are going to go into more, is instead of saying the standard, tell me about a weakness, tell me about a time you failed. Tell me about a time something didn't go as you'd planned. If we were to ask 3 people, what would they say they'd like you to work on?
Linda, yes. I am getting a lot of the latter of what you said, which is, tell me about a challenge that you overcame,
Yep.
specific to what we do. And because there are lots of different ones, so they want to know that.
Exactly.
And so that's the one I'm getting now. Okay.
And that to me is a much better question. It requires you to be a little more not only self-reflective, but to really reflect on what you do in relationship to the job.
But it also gives you a chance to showcase yourself. It was this difficult. It wasn't necessarily your fault. How did you handle this?
Exactly.
And then you're not putting a spotlight on yourself of, what you weren't doing that great and then improved on. It's it's a much easier question to answer, in my opinion.
It is. And you might be able, depending upon how the interview is going, you might be able to flip that question so that you answer it that way. You have to be careful, because some people are going to be on the other side of the question, are going to say, but you're not answering my question. Okay. Always answer the question that's asked. But if you can use that question as a way to segue into something else and expand upon it.
What I do is if I want to segue and expand, I'll start and then I'll stop and say, oh, is it okay if I segue into something else? And they usually say, oh yeah, of course, because then you're answering another 5 questions that they had about your skills and abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a better question, because it gives them a better understanding of how you work, as opposed to where, I don't know. Anyway, thank you.
No, absolutely. Okay. And that's one of the things that I like about these groups, is that we do have that opportunity to all give our own best practices and ideas. We'll share a lot. We will follow up with one another. When you have ideas for different topics, you're going to let me know. You can post them in the Lunch and Learn group. And if you haven't requested permission or to join, please do. As I said, I try and send invitations to everybody, but I can only invite you if we are first level connections. You can request joining the group even if we haven't connected yet. But please, everybody, do connect with me. So here's my connection again. Okay, and if we haven't connected yet, let's do that. And then the last one that I want to put up there again. Okay. Y'all have questions after this? Okay. Reach out. I'm happy to do some follow-up if we can, if we need it, okay? But I love your questions. You can also ask additional questions either on LinkedIn in messaging or in that private group. Now, some of your questions I may turn into a post or I might turn into another session here. We're a group that works with each other to try and make this work for everyone. I'm going to stop the recording.